is the Panic Then Process podcast, where we find ourselves somewhere between clinical and chaotic, sharing lessons that we didn't learn in our academic textbooks.
We're two MACP Yorkville graduates giving their take on the program, practicum, and all things therapy.
I'm Izzy.
And I'm Karen, and this is Panic Then Process. All right, everybody, episode 4. Here we are. We made it. Woohoo! Shout out, Izzy. We did it. Very exciting. We're very excited to be here today. So, episode 4, this one is all about finishing practicum and beyond. So, shout out to Savannah who gave us this idea for some upcoming content. So, hopefully, this is what you're looking for, Savannah. Let us know if you're any of you, if you're wanting something a little bit different or to go more in depth on anything. Okay. So,
Yeah, I love that.
first off, finishing practicum. Oh my gosh.
Oh
Like,
my
hallelujah.
gosh.
You're almost done, right? Like, you're at the end. You made it. How exciting
I
is
like
that?
took over my body. Like I was like remembering myself finishing. Oh
Oh,
my
totally.
gosh.
So let's talk about that. Izzy, like, what was it like for you?
Oh my gosh. And it was slow because what happened with my practicum was that we kind of petered off our clients. So in the last like 3, 4 weeks, I had like one client, one or two clients, because some of them transferred to other clinicians. So
Mhm.
one or two a week, maybe in the last like 3 weeks. So it was relatively slow. The paper had been submitted because it has to be due a couple weeks before like the official end. So it felt like this slow. And I remember I was done my clients on like Tuesday or Wednesday of the last week. And I was like, oh, I cannot believe it. But I really didn't celebrate until that Sunday because I was waiting for my grade for my paper and like for everything really to be wrapped up in a nice bow. And like,
Yeah.
I don't know, it almost felt like truly like I was excited, but it almost felt like anticlimactic. Like, how do you actually like put into words, into sentiment, into excitement, into holy shit, lots of swear words to follow, blah, 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 that like you did this.
Yeah.
Oh, what about you?
So I love that. I think what you just conceptualized is something that is is across the board, I think, for human beings in terms of big life events.
Mm,
And that whole concept of, like this was 2.5, 3 years of our
at
life,
least.
at least. And so many ups and downs, so
Mm,
many, so many emotions.
hmm
And then so much like steady, 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 go, 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 go. Whether,
hmm
it's practicum or life things, I think this is applicable to because then all of a sudden I felt the same way. It was almost anticlimactic in the end because it was
mm.
like full bore, full speed ahead. You're trying to do all the things, make sure you're meeting
Getting your
deadlines and
hours.
hours and all this stuff and transferring clients if you're leaving and figuring all that out if you're staying and all of these things to all of a sudden that's it. And I was like, it was like whiplash almost. I
It
was like,
was
what
weird.
is
Yeah.
this? Because like, my body couldn't trust that it was done. I was still so up here for so
Yes.
long.
Oh,
And at
yeah.
the same time, just like deep exhaustion. So I think
Yeah.
that that's so like applicable to life things too, where you're just like, takes a while to
hmm
process everything, right? Panic then process. Yeah. What do you
Yes.
think?
Yeah. And like the, and I think when you come to the end again, like, and we will totally talk about practicum hours, all of these things probably in another one. But when you come to the end, it's really like, oh, like the duality of like the fear, the excitement, like
Yeah.
what's next? You mean I'm stepping out into the world as a therapist who isn't highly monitored by a practicum, a prof, submitting papers and concepts and questions to peers? Like, and I mean, you still can, of course, like once you become a therapist to a degree, like there's lots of
Yeah,
avenues, but what do
absolutely.
you mean someone's like giving me the liberty to do this? Like
Yeah,
there is this piece of like, holy
totally.
crap. Um,
What's
but
next? What the heck?
yes,
Yeah.
but for my experience, I did take a bit of a pause because I was still technically on mat leave.
Mm.
So we finished in April, and then I didn't go, like, wouldn't have been going back to work until the beginning of July. So I did take a pause. And I think that and then I ended up like slowly putting together like a private practice type thing where I saw like a client a week type thing just to keep my feet wet. But it is this weird, like, holy shit, now what? It's almost like you come back to the beginning, like when you get your acceptance letter and you're like, holy shit, now what? Now
Yeah.
that you've graduated and actually, well, not even fully graduated because you don't get your parchment or whatever, but you can practice. So, like, you finish the coursework and you're like, holy shit, now what?
Hmm. Totally. That's exactly like right from the acceptance letter to the end. Exactly. Holy shit, now what? Panic then process.
Life cycles, baby. They come back
Yes.
around.
I love that completely. And it's so crazy to shift into that new state of, oh yeah, what do you mean I'm not like full bore to the hilt, supervised, all this stuff. And there is still supervision, but as you talked
Mhm,
about, not quite the same.
mhm,
Everything in your life is planned for. Now all of a sudden you're like, oh, now I have to go out and do the things. Like this
mhm.
doesn't just happen for me. I have to go out and do this. How does that work? What are my steps? Oh my gosh, right? It's a big thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think like if we break it down and genuinely consider avenues, right? So if you're in a practicum placement that you love and that has offered you to stay and that you're comfortable with and that aligns with you, and even if it aligns with you for a minute, like even if it aligns with you for the rest of the year, for 6 months, for a year, doesn't mean you're going to be there together. No, not together, forever. Yikes. I don't know
Panic
how to
then
speak.
process. All
Yeah, yeah,
good.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the way it goes.
Doesn't mean you're gonna be there forever, but like if they've offered you and you feel like it aligns right now, you're gonna continue to kind of explore who you are as a therapist and how you want to show up in the world and with whom. Great. Then you get
Mm-hmm.
to continue.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
truly, I think that that is a really, again, with the caveat that you need to feel aligned with your practicum in order to want to stay. Because
Mm-hmm.
if the motivation to stay is to have clients and have some sort of consistency and to have the habit or the commonality that you've experienced over the last 8 months continue, if that's the motivation and you don't have alignment with your practicum, I would maybe not recommend this. But if you are aligned, yeah, you get to continue with your caseload. You know what to expect. You know how you're showing up. It feels like a softer way to continue.
Mm.
I did not continue with
Yeah.
my practicum placement. So
Mm-hmm.
I left and kind of found another, again, I had a bit of a window because I was still on mat leave, but I found other clinics that better aligned with me. I found a supervisor. So, any thoughts on that piece, Karen?
Yeah, I love what you said about that. I think that's a really important piece of this is that when we get to the end of practicum and those what's next steps, if you're able to stay at your place and it feels good, as you said, like what a beautiful, soft way to move into the next phase of your career in your life with a little bit of, consistency, familiarity, kind of that whole
Familiarity.
feeling of while you're getting your feet under you again, back into real life, it's nice to have that little bit of landing to go, oh yeah, okay, this is still my normal. I can still do this
Mhm.
if you're lucky enough to have that happen.
Yeah.
I didn't stay at my practicum place either. I was exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
I was still working in community mental health part time and continued to do that after practicum ended. And so I just took some time. I stayed
Mm-hmm.
at community mental health and rested,
Mm-hmm.
really. Like those days that I wasn't working, I really tried to make sure I was getting back, doing all the self care things, all the things we know we should be doing. But there really is value if you can, um, for myself, anyways, to resting a little bit after all that
Mm-hmm.
experience. And not everyone has that. I was lucky enough to, and I'm very grateful for that because I think it made a big difference. In the meantime, though, you're still doing all of these next step things like, where do I submit my hours? Where am I going to register? All of this stuff. So there's still that whole process. that's
Yes.
happening. Yeah.
Yeah. Great
Yeah.
point. Yeah. And I think that for me, I too, fortunately, just given the mat leave, got an opportunity. I mean, obviously, I was still a mom to an infant all day,
Which is
but it's
massive in and
different.
of
It's
itself.
different. It is, but it's different than having to go to work every day, right? Or even to work part-time. So I did get a sense of a break. I, however, knowing that I wanted to work with a different niche and I wanted to work, a little bit more in person, I started looking for where I wanted to be come July pretty
Mm-hmm.
early on. Like I really wanted to connect with places that really aligned with me, aligned with my work, aligned with who I am as a therapist and as a person.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and really, for me, they're one and the same, who I am as a therapist and a person. Maybe not for everybody, but I've kind of come to that where I truly am just a gal who sits across from you, like maybe reflecting some things to you and challenging you at times. And that's just what our hour is. And what a blessing and honor for us, for me to be able to do that.
Yeah.
But I started looking pretty early on. My practicum started in September. It's 8 months. I would say by like November, December, I was emailing places that, again, I'd done my research. I'd looked into places that maybe had a need and was the population I wanted to work with. And I had started looking at specific trainings and certifications in my niche.
Mm-hmm.
So for those of you, obviously none of you know, or maybe you do, maybe you follow me on Instagram. Whoa, wouldn't that be cool? Anyways, I
Full
work with the
circle
perinatal,
moment.
right? I work with the perinatal population. So being a mom in or becoming a mom right before practicum and doing that kind of simultaneously really inspired me to work with the perinatal population. So in that time, I'd done certifications and trainings and started to look for work with that specific niche, which
Mm-hmm.
is probably why I started so soon, quotes,
Yeah.
which it might not be possible for everybody, but I would recommend this exploration of a niche or a few niches
Mm-hmm.
that really differentiates you post practicum because you've seen the posts, the market is oversaturated and we have too many therapists and you know, we can get into it, but what will set you apart is the way that you set yourself apart, right?
Yeah.
Is working
Yeah.
with niche. If if you're just working with anxiety and depression for anybody and everybody, sure, that's a niche in itself, but is oftentimes categorized by everyone. Everyone's
Yeah.
like, yeah, I can work with anxiety and depression for
For
anybody,
sure. Yeah.
right? So niche in terms of population, also in terms of modality, right? I do IFS, which is a little bit different than maybe mainstream work. So I've done extra training there. So that could be sought after for people. Um, there was one more population, modality, and like the concern that they're bringing to you, right?
Yeah.
Is OCD something you want to work in? Is, you know, working with the LGBTQIA plus community where you want to be? Is it couples? Is it family? Is it kids?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Is it I guess those are populations, but is it PTSD? Is it eating disorders, right? These are big ones, but kind of thinking that way. I don't know, I'm rambling now. What do you
Yeah.
think?
No, I love that. I think it's so cool to hear of your experience because I think, and maybe I'm out to lunch here, but I think your experience of kind of really finding a niche that resonated with you so early in practicum is rare.
Is rare. I would agree with
So
you.
it's such a cool thing to hear about happening because I've been in this business for like 8+ years now, sporadically in and out. And I'm just starting to begin to think, okay, yeah, this is where I want to go. This is what really lights my soul up, things along
Mm,
that nature. So I think it's so cool to hear about how, you had a real strong sense of where you wanted to go. And we're already kind of looking into, okay, what trainings, what modalities work with this? What places around me would I potentially want to look into working at later?
mm.
I love that. I think if you are the kind of person and that's your jam and you've got that figured out, beautiful, run with that.
Mhm.
Mine was a little different. I wasn't quite sure exactly where I wanted to be. I had some ideas, but not certainly as clear as you. I took about the summer kind of off to still working at my CMH job and then not doing any kind of private practice work or anything else. And then I slowly kind of started to look into some places that, again, really resonate with the way I do therapy, how I show up, the modalities I want to use, what I believe about therapy. That was really important to me as the one beautiful thing about practicum, wherever you're at, you really kind of can get a sense of, okay, this model is something I really enjoy. This model is not really my jam, all that kind of stuff. And same thing, I found that though CBT is beautiful and important and can do fabulous things, I'm not really a worksheet kind of therapist.
Mm. Mhm.
Not that CBT has to be all worksheets, and I do use some concepts of it. Of course, it's very helpful and great for certain things, but that's not really my jam.
Mhm.
So I think there's a lot of value in muddling your way through all of that stuff, all those experiences, and it's through the muddling that we eventually kind of figure out, maybe if not exactly what we do want, what we don't want.
Totally.
And there's
And
value in that.
I almost think that that's the most valuable, truly,
Mm,
is this idea of like what you don't, because you don't know what you don't know. So how are you meant to know what you want when there is such an abundance of like populations,
yeah.
modalities, niches? Like, how is it possible to narrow it down? I don't know that it is. And I
Mm-hmm.
mean, so when you know what isn't necessarily like your like there are clinics that exclusively do CBT. Fantastic. If that's what you're searching for, you know where to get
Yeah,
it because you're going
absolutely.
to CBT.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. Um, and if you know that you don't want to be an exclusive CBT therapist, you're not going to work at an exclusive CBT clinic,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And I hear you when you say, the beauty of practicum is that you get the opportunity to explore modalities. True, but also maybe not. Like I know that our practicum, because we did practicum together, was very CBT, DBT. We did that kind of
Mm-hmm.
training. And so that was
Mm-hmm.
the focus. And certainly you could integrate other pieces, but that was the focus for that clinic. I
Yeah.
didn't learn about IFS through the, set out system of practicum through my placement or through
True.
education.
Yeah, true.
I
Mm-hmm.
sought it out. I
Mm.
I went to therapy with an IFS therapist,
Mm,
loved
I
the
love
work,
that.
and now
Yeah.
here I am. Sometimes you got to do to really
Love that.
know, right?
Love
Especially
that.
for IFS, if anyone's familiar, it's a little bit more abstract. But um, you know, this piece of like, yes, sometimes your practicum will give you this plethora of like open reign, and other times are going to be a little bit more narrow, which is neither here nor there in terms of good or bad, but does give you an opportunity to say, okay, now that I've done this, I love DBT. I stick to DBT. I use DBT in my skill base. I do mainly right now do DBT and IFS. So, DBT, I was really thankful to have learned in practicum.
Mm-hmm.
Again, the CBT stuff just didn't resonate the way that it might for others.
Mm-hmm.
And so part of it is like learning what you don't want. And yes, kind of narrowing down, but also knowing that, and you say, like, Izzy, you've got it figured out or alluded to. I don't. I'm now exploring ACT. I'm now
Oh
exploring
yeah.
working with kids. I'm now exploring working with a neurodivergent population, working with kids with autism, which is my background. I was an ABA therapist before this, doing, behavior analysis type work. Um, but it's that like exploration and that curiosity and that openness,
Love
knowing
that.
that even if you're landing somewhere doesn't mean you got to land there forever.
Yeah. Oh man, okay, can we just take a minute to like shout that out and I love
Yes.
that because
Yeah.
especially that's applicable to life too. This is
Mhm.
not just find your niche, practicum what's next type of stuff. That's life, right?
True.
How we like it's through the living, it's through the trying, it's through the doing, it's through the muck and the muddle and the mess that
Mm,
we figure things out. Not that, there's a lot that goes into the muck and the mess. Don't get me wrong, not to take anything away from that. But, my supervisor at my workplace always talks a lot about how we as human beings live our way into answers. And
yeah.
I absolutely love that. So shout out Pam Mosky. She's fabulous. Look her up
We
if you're
love
looking for
Pam.
a registered
Wow.
psychologist in Alberta. And that's
Wow.
one of the, so give credit where credit's due, because I love
Yeah.
that. I think that's so important, which is just what you talked about with your experience. And then also in terms of life, that's how we do things. And that it's okay to not have it all figured out.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that even if sometimes we think if people have it all figured out, it's not always the way it is.
They
And
don't.
again, that's okay. There's so much beauty in the it is what it is. And
Yes.
just keep moving, keep trying, keep going, and rest if you need to. All good.
Totally agree with that. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
think that kind of brings us to our next piece in terms of like paths, right? Like, what are your
Yeah.
paths? You can stay with your practicum placement, you can leave. And then when you're leaving, if you're deciding to leave, are you are you trying to go out on your own privately? Are you joining another clinic? Um, are you keeping a job, whether
Yeah.
part-time, full-time, that you were previously doing as you do this? So
Are
maybe
you
we
going to
can
an
give
agency? Yeah.
yeah, maybe
Hmm.
we can give our yeah, a different like a 9 to 5 therapy related. You've got your master's, you're doing that work in kind of an agency setting,
Hmm.
university. What are you thinking, Karen?
Yeah.
What's coming to your mind as I
So
share that?
beautiful. I think that there's all of those are fabulously good options. I think if anybody ever has the chance to do agency work in any form, nonprofit, community mental health, there is so much valuable, beautiful, and sometimes hard, but so important learning that can happen
Mhm.
there, and a real range of populations and concerns and all kinds of things, whether even just from fundraising to, reporting requirements to all of those things in between, that I think that's really valuable as a new therapist to have those experiences. It's certainly not mandatory, but I've certainly benefited from it. The group practice, so that's kind of what I did. So I'm still at community mental health and staying there and loving it. And then there's also part of me that wanted to join a group practice before really jumping into totally private, because that's kind of terrifying in my mind to be the sole person to do everything. And also financially, that's just not feasible for my family at the moment. So a group practice was really exciting to me to not have to worry about that kind of stuff and to also find a community of therapists that where we could support one another. This can be a really isolating and
Mm,
beautiful and hard job. And so
mhm,
I really wanted to find a community, a support network where it felt like a good fit
mhm.
because of that. Yeah. How about you?
Yeah, a couple things that really came to mind as you were talking, and now I'm gonna try to remember because as you were talking, like a new thing came to my mind was like, oh yeah, great idea. Wow. Yeah, okay. Um, I I quit my job. So I worked full time as an ABA therapist, and after my mat leave, I didn't go back. Do I regret that? Probably.
Mm,
And mainly because of the financial aspect. So
yeah,
alluded to a little bit
that's
before
real.
about this like oversaturation. And I'm not sure if that's true. And we also talked about niching out, and I did. So I'm not sure if that's true, but I do think for most, unless you're going to a clinic with like wait lists and, which is pretty rare, I think, don't hold me to it. Um, but it does take time to build your caseload. So it
Hmm.
does take time to see clients. So from a financial perspective, having a mortgage and a daughter and all of groceries have to feed, mouths to feed, right? We talk about that a lot.
Let
I
alone the fees to register.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Their
Your
insurance,
exam.
all
Oh, yeah.
that.
All of
Yeah.
these things. Yeah. I probably would have kept part-time work
Mm,
as an ABA therapist to have some consistency as I'm building my caseload. So if I
mm.
could go back in time,
It's
I
good
would
advice.
recommend that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you said the agency stuff, if you have the opportunity to do that, fantastic. And I think that's great advice. And I might actually follow through on that advice that you're giving because I have never really worked in mental health agency either. But I do think there's a lot of valuable learning and just like having an understanding of how other like populations are working. And like you said, the reporting and all of these pieces that you may or may not come across in private practice. But as
Yeah,
long as you've had experience in it, then you have that knowledge. Um, but I also want to say it's not for everybody.
100%.
So like I
And
think
that's okay.
it's not for me for forever, but could it be for me for part-time for a year or two? Yeah. Do I want that full time to be the exclusive work that I'm doing? I don't. I don't
Hmm.
want that.
Hmm.
So finding the balance that works best for you, I think is really important as you're stepping out of practicum.
Love that. Love that. And if you can, just to piggyback onto that, allowing yourself the grace and the time, if you can financially afford it, of course, to not be directly into, therapy work. It's also okay to have a part-time job or a job in whatever other field can also give you a bit of breathing room.
Starbucks.
School is no joke. Practicum is no joke. And we want to make sure that we have healthy, not burned out therapists. So, whatever you got to do to make yourself okay while still keeping your foot in the door,
Yeah.
beautiful.
It
All
also
good.
doesn't it also doesn't make you less legit.
100%.
Because I feel like that part of me shows up where I'm like,
Ah,
well, if I work at Starbucks, right? Because they got excellent health benefits, right? If I work at McDonald's, if I work at the grocery store, does that
mhm,
make me less legit as a therapist?
right.
Right? That
Totally.
can come
I love
up,
that.
but
100%.
definitely not. And that's something that I'm working through. So it's definitely a work in progress over here. But there is this piece of like, how can I have like I'm a dog walker, right? That's a great outlet, right? Like,
Hmm.
and again, it's about finding your path to it, knowing that it's really hard to snap your fingers, fill your caseload with the type of clients that you
Yes.
ideally want to see forever or
Yeah.
for now.
Yeah.
Um, so balancing that. So I quit my job. And again, like I said, I probably would go back and keep it part-time at least. And then I went into two clinics and then also started my own kind of private practice. So I like purchased the platform, did the website, did the advertising, getting clients that way. And it's slow. It's really
Hmm.
slow to try to break through on your own. Did the
Hmm.
psychology today. So that's my experience at least. And you do hear similar experience. Not to say that you out there listening couldn't be the unicorn. I believe in you and I'm rooting for you.
Love it.
And also being mindful of what it could look like. So
Yes.
kind of having your safeguards in place. So I started that, but then I also work at two other established clinics with the perinatal population and see clients that way too. And even then, she's slow, baby. Summertime
Hmm.
is slow. This year, kind of unprecedented. A lot of the Facebooks were ringing about, is everyone else having a slow September too? Not sure what it was. Weather was weird. Lots of speculation on what it could look like. But that's also the nature of the beast of this work. And that is
Mm.
that it
There's
fluctuates
seasons. Yeah,
and
absolutely.
it's not predictable. So
Hmm.
getting comfortable with that, if you're not going to be having something else, some sort of consistent
Yeah.
income outside of it, something to think about for sure.
Yeah, that's right. We're in this, yeah. We're in the business of people, right? And it's emphasis on the people here. So there are ebbs and flows in this and seasons of life for people as well and seasons of timing. And so it's not, if you're in that private practice realm, there's a reason why so many people work another job and develop their private practice on the side. And then eventually, if they can, they take that jump because it's a lot. But
Mhm.
there's also something I wanted to talk about that kind of is involved in that too, but is that feeling of imposter syndrome a little bit. You
Mm,
alluded a little bit to that and that parts work you talked about. Love that. But I
mm,
think too, coming out of practicum, that can also be something. And definitely in terms of, where do I go from here? Do I start a private practice? Do I not?
mhm.
Am I a legit therapist? If I'm working at Starbucks, if I'm dog walking and doing this or not? And sometimes that fear can stop us or just be present
Mm,
in us during those times. What do you think? Did you experience that?
totally. And it's interesting you should bring that up because it comes to me in twofold. One being, yes, there were definitely times that it was showing up like, okay, wow, like, am I actually a therapist? Like, can I actually break into this realm of work, make a difference? But I'll say that was less common than for me this sense of like, I know I'm a good therapist. Not to be like
No, own
tootie
it. Love
McTooter
it.
horn over here.
Love it.
But I do. I know I'm a good therapist. I care about my clients. I show up presently. Sometimes that's half the goddamn battle.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of great feedback from my clients. I'm not for everybody. And I always say that in all of my consultations and all of my initials. I may not be your gal. And I'm very comfortable with that.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was less about, am I a good enough therapist? And more about, despite being a good therapist, is it still possible for me to make a living doing this job that I love? Or will I
Mm-hmm.
have to step away from this because financially the world keeps turning?
Yeah.
And like that is something I have really struggled with because of the financial pressures
Mm-hmm.
of having kind of just flung myself into this work without having that. I'm going to say backup, but I don't mean backup. I mean like the
Like a safety
consistency
net.
of something
Yeah.
else. Yes.
Consistent
Yeah.
income. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that's real and people experience
Yeah.
that. And I certainly have had that. And I also see the other part of it too,
Mm-hmm.
right? If five more people could get my name, if five more people needed me, I would be fine,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I'm a good therapist, I swear, right? Like as
Yeah.
if you could just, convince people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and sometimes it's not even about that. It's
Mm-hmm.
economic. Like the
Mm-hmm.
world is going through this place of, oh, financially, right?
Yeah.
It's benefits. It's all of these things that are
Yeah.
encompassed in the work that we do.
Absolutely. And, that's such a good point that I think, especially when people are leaving grad school or they're just starting out in their career as therapists, that feeling of, am I good enough? Or, is this feasible? These are such real, valid
Hmm.
things, no matter what walk of life or what particular setting or population we're in and seeing. And so just to really normalize that and that it does slowly subside for myself anyways, it's still there, and I think that's okay, for myself, and I do my own work around this, right? For
Hmm.
myself, there's this part of me that feels that as long as I'm continuing to reflect and be
Hmm.
self-aware and look back on this, I think it's important that there's still some times that I show up with, I don't, caution is coming to mind, but I don't know if that's the right word exactly. But just this presence that this is still a human being in front of me,
Hmm.
and this is someone vulnerable, and this is something that I need to be conscious of.
Yeah.
And it's not just a business, I'm air quoting here because
Yeah.
sometimes that can happen in because we still do have bills to pay and we have all
Yeah.
these things. So, and that's okay.
Yep.
But just that little bit of feeling of imposter syndrome, or maybe I should term it something else as it develops, but helps to keep me reflective and self-aware to make sure that I'm still showing up with clients
Yeah.
in a way
I
that's
really
that's safe.
I really like that. And I do a lot of I said like I my therapist is IFS. So I do a lot of this parts work where I have to check in with that part of me that says like, "Oh my God, they canceled because they were in a car accident. I really needed this session," which is real,
Hmm.
but also with that other part of me that goes, "Oh my God, they were in a car accident.
Yeah.
My poor client.
Yeah.
Wow." So I
Mm,
think like you were saying, like noticing those parts of you and noticing that, again, doesn't make you a bad therapist, doesn't mean that you're out for the money,
that's right.
doesn't mean any of that. It just means to check in with yourself and check in with how comfortable you are in your current setting, which kind of brings me to the next that if you do choose agency work, if you do choose something like a 9 to 5 or in some sort of organization related to this, mental health, you've got your master's type of work, the expectation piece, right? This expectation of what you think it's going to look like, even just to be in one-on-one private practice, group practice, or to be in that agency setting too, like being able to sit back and reflect on, okay, like what were my expectations? How is that impacting me now?
Mm-hmm.
And like, what do I need to do about it
Mm-hmm.
in terms of feeling grounded as a person in this mental health field?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a big one. That's tricky and beautiful and hard and good all rolled into one, I think. And
Yeah.
I think for each one of us that's very individual and a very individual journey. Um
Hmm.
in terms of agency work, I think it's important that people really stay connected to their self and what they need to stay healthy and well and their overall well-being during that whole process because it can be like you don't always get to set your own schedule. There's a lot of different
Yeah.
logistical things that can come into play where it can sometimes, I'm gonna be very real with this, be very easy to become burned out. Um,
Hmm.
I myself, I don't work full time in community mental health because I wouldn't be able to and be mentally well and to be able to show up well for my clients. Um,
Mm.
I love it. It's hard and beautiful, and it's such an honor and a privilege to sit with people. And at the same time, carrying that can sometimes also be heavy. And so I think just really making sure you're managing yourself well in all of this and really reflecting on that is really important moving forward. And throughout our whole
Yeah, and I'm
career
glad you
too.
said that. Yeah, and there's a caveat there too, because you said, I don't work full time in community mental health because I want to be able to show up well for my clients. I think that should definitely extend. And for you, I know it does. But just to like have that caveat and like name this that you want to show up well for yourself too,
Hmm.
for your family
Yeah.
too, but really for yourself.
Hmm.
Like, can I go to work, regulate my emotions, check in with myself, be grounded? Yes, I want to show up well for my clients, but there is this piece of like needing to be, and I use air quotes, selfish about this because and it's an age-old tale, we all know it. You cannot show up on an empty cup with an
Hmm.
empty cup.
Hmm.
And so I think this kind of brings us kind of back to practicum and knowing if it's the right place to stay or if it's the right, fit to move on or deciding on a new group practice or whatever that could look like. Checking in with yourself. And hopefully you've become pretty good at that over the last two
Yeah.
and a half to 3 years, because
Yeah.
that really has been the journey of the MACP program
Yeah.
or any, you know, post grad mental health or master's level mental health
Hmm.
education. But checking in with yourself, I think, is
Yeah. I love that. I
ultimately
think
coming up.
trusting that intuition, right? Trust your gut, what feels
Mhm.
right, what doesn't. I'm a big believer in that. And throughout this whole experience and many in my life, I've really come to trust that. And
Yeah.
if you're able to, because at the same time, there's also realities, financial realities, whatever else that we also have to live within. And so trust your gut as much as you can. And if you're not able to do the things that you feel would be most helpful or that your gut is telling you is the right path for you at this moment, if you have to make do with life the way it is and where you're at, because that happens, figure out a good plan to be able to be as mentally well as you can be throughout this time, because that's still
Yeah.
important. And do what you can take steps to move towards where you want to be. Because that's just real for some of us, right? It is the way it is. But
Yes.
let's talk a little bit too about things like, okay, so you're done. So what about hours? Like, how do my hours get to the CRPO? What if you're in another province? Like, how do you register? What about insurance? Well, like, what do you do next? How do you be able to do therapy legally or in
Yep.
good ethical practice, let's say? What do you think?
Love that.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'm in Ontario, so I'm really only going to speak to the CRPO because that's the only thing I've had to dance through yet. I know you've had some a dual experience, so I'll be looking forward to hearing what you have gone through. Um, but yeah, so oh gosh, I have to think back too. Some of these I hate logistics, so like a lot of it I black out because I'm
Yeah.
like, this is just this fucking okay.
Uh-huh. Yeah. We're
So
therapists. Yeah.
in practicum, you've got insurance. So you want to make sure that when you're finishing up, you've communicated that you've graduated and you're now a practicing person. You've got your insurance in
Yeah.
place. If you're going to specific clinics, some clinics require a certain amount of insurance or specific insurance details. You're going to want to be in contact with your people there, making sure that your T's are crossed, your dots are I'd. Definitely not the expression, but you guys got me.
We got you. It's the way
You
it goes
got me.
sometimes. Yes, yes. And
Um,
different provinces too. Sorry, it's to
okay.
butt in there, but
Yeah,
because Ontario, you need more liability insurance than say a different province.
there you
So,
go.
which is all in your insurance. So and virtual, right? If you're gonna
Yes.
do virtual stuff, then you sometimes need like extra cybersecurity
Security.
and
Yep.
whatnot. Yeah. So really look into that. Your insurance people are your friend.
Yep, for sure. Letting the CRPO know, again, Ontario based, that um God, there had to have been some sort of documentation that you're finished practicum, but all of your hours from practicum will be uploaded to the CRPO through graduation. So they'll ask if you want it submitted to the CRPO, which I said yes, they did it, and now my hours show up.
Hmm.
And then anything beyond that is what I've tracked in my own Excel sheet. And then we'll have my supervisor sign off on when I'm done all my hours. And then that will be uploaded to have my complete direct client hours, supervision hours. So your direct client hours, oh God, you need something like, I know supervision's 150. I want to say direct client hours is like 450.
It's yeah, 400 or 450
Yeah.
to drop the qualifying, you mean?
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. So you want to track that. And then also, yeah, supervisor, right? Post, I mean, maybe we can talk about that after. Um, yeah, is there anything else CRPO wise
Just
or
yeah, that like so there your practicum supervisor should submit the form or like
they
your
have
hours and
to
whatnot. Yeah.
when you finish, because it goes through whatever the platform is that you're using in practicum. They have to submit it and then that goes to the school.
Mm-hmm.
It's all signed off.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm pretty sure the school sends to the CRPO.
I didn't have to follow up with anything. It was already there. Yeah, the school
Yes.
or the
I'm pretty sure the school
supervisor
does it. Yeah.
had done everything. So all hours from practicum, supervision, individual, group, dyadic, all of it, and direct client contact were all there.
Yep.
Um, I did have to like fill out a form for my work supervisor and my agency to fill out to say, yes, I've done so many other direct client contact hours and so many supervision hours. Everybody signed off on it. I submitted it to CRPO and asked for, um, I have my hours now for to drop the qualifying. So I asked for a review. It's still pending. It can take a while. So just so that you're aware of that.
Yes.
But that's how that piece works. So you do have to
Right.
submit all your stuff after practicum. Yeah.
Right, right. And that's after your hours. Because again, Karen had the community mental health hours alongside her practicum hours to get her to this place a couple
Yeah.
months post grad to be able to submit all of this. Whereas I'm still trucking along.
Yeah.
So I just keep it in an Excel sheet. I keep my supervision hours and I keep my hours, direct client hours, groups, etc. And then once I'm done that, similar to how Karen with her other job, that's when you do the form have your supervisor sign off on. And your supervisor is actually signing off on their supervision hours, but also their direct client hours.
Mm.
So it could be that, like, my supervisor doesn't necessarily, like, she doesn't work in the clinics I work in. She doesn't work in my private practice.
Right.
She's
Yeah,
just my
good point.
supervisor.
Yeah.
So part of it too is just like, she's like, like my supervisor, she's amazing. She's like, I trust you. I'm gonna trust that the clients we're talking about are the clients that are going on your hours and we're kind of being thorough. And that's part of the integrity of the job too. So sometimes it's not, doesn't have to be direct, like your supervisor doesn't directly have to oversee your work either in that sense, the
Hmm.
way that they would have in practicum. So that
Yeah,
can feel
that's
different too
right.
if you're stepping into a different clinic.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And then with the CRPO, you need to write your exam within
Oh
the
yeah.
first 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the
Which is a
CRPO will
whole
send you an
other
email.
topic, essentially.
Yes, absolutely. So
Yeah.
they'll send you emails when you're eligible to write, and then it's up to you. You just have to have your first attempt within the first 2 years. You book it, and then you write, and then hopefully you pass and go from there. So that's kind of the first steps after practicum for CRPO stuff.
Yep.
Do you have anything else to
And
add?
I'll just clarify that you have to make your first attempt to write your exam within 2 years of registering. So remember your
Yes,
registration would have been pre-practicum.
that's right.
So because you would have started technically practicing during practicum. So being mindful that typically in the next year of graduate like post graduation, you're gonna want to do the exam. A lot of people say like do the first offering, kind of give it a go and then see what happens. I think Karen and I are both waiting for our exam results. So we'll keep you guys
Pins
posted
and needles. Oh boy.
right
Who
before Christmas.
knows?
I think they're supposed to come out like the 17th of December. I'm like, either it's going to be a happy Christmas or a sad Christmas.
Or maybe we'll be writing again. Who knows?
Right.
Yeah,
Who
that's right.
preparing for the April sitting. Yeah. And so what else did you have to do for Alberta work or beyond?
Yeah, well, so first I'm going to touch on the nationally. So I am a Canadian certified counselor, which is with the CCPA. How is the Canadian Psychotherapy and Counseling Association, I think is the full acronym. Don't quote me on that. I can't think of it off the top of my head. But that allows me, so it's not a registering governing body, it's an association, but it is more widely accepted across Canada by insurance companies. And so, being in Alberta, there's some up in the airness around registering and whatnot, and different avenues to do that. So, I wanted to make sure I had my CCC to be able to work Ontario, Alberta, and maybe any other provinces. The CCPA is a great process. It's fairly straightforward. There's a whole like guide and fabulous people to walk you through it. It's all on their website. So I had to submit some forms and fill in, like coursework requirements, practicum requirements, all these kinds of things. Have my supervisor do a form and sign off on all of it. Have my myself do one. Have some reference letters, things of that nature. And I submitted it all. You pay the fee, and then you wait and hear back. And it's not too long, actually. My experience wasn't, anyways. And then you become a CCC if you're approved. We should also mention too that a lot of these things, and we can talk about it in a separate podcast episode too, but are all annual usually. So you have
Yeah.
to um, what's the word? You have to make sure you're keeping up
Register,
with it.
renew. Yeah.
Renew, that's the word. Yeah,
Yeah,
thank
renew.
you.
Mm.
In terms of Alberta, so I am in Alberta, and Alberta doesn't have a governing body for counseling therapists at the moment. They have an association that's ready to be turned into a governing body, but the legislation has not come through where counseling can be registered yet. So I am a member of the Association of Counseling Therapists of Alberta. It's an association at the moment, but it is again also accepted for insurance. That was the same kind of process, getting all my documents together, filling out all the forms. There's quite a rigmarole process of filling in all that information and going through it. And then we submit it and, of course, wait, pay the fee, all that stuff. In Alberta, the College of Alberta Psychologists is what is registered as the governing body. And in Alberta, you can be a psychologist with a master's degree, not a doctorate level degree, which may be changing, but that's as of right now. And so, but there's a whole other different process around how many site credits and instructors with, what their credentials are, if courses count towards it, all that kind of stuff, and a whole bunch of after hours as well, same as with the CRPO and exams too. And so I can't speak to that specifically because I'm not going that route. I've decided to stay the counseling therapist designation route, which CAP, the College of Alberta Psychologists, is supposed to be eventually bringing them counseling therapists in under their umbrella to legislate them as well. So that's in the works. Who knows what will happen with this? It's always kind of a can be a slow process as we've seen in other provinces as well. So
Yeah.
so check your province
Yeah.
because every province is different. Some are regulated, some are not, and some have different processes of how to register with the association or the governing body in your province. And then CCPA is kind of that national cross
Yeah.
Canada one. Yeah,
And that would be like the CCC would be for like also non-regulated provinces. It,
that's the
it
one.
gives you it gives you the opportunity to provide services in the non-regulated provinces and potentially bill through insurance to
Yeah,
support the clients to be able to pay for it. So
that's right. And
considering that too,
have some, not credence,
credibility.
not legislation. Yeah, like
Yeah.
there is a process that you have to
Yeah.
go through. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
safety. Hmm.
Yes. Yeah. And
Hmm.
I think that that's a really important as therapists and as as the market changes and even as Yorkville graduates, right? There's a lot to talk about with Yorkville pumping
Yes.
out these grads and what it means for competencies and ethics and oh my gosh, we could go on. But there is something in doing your diligence and getting yourself aligned and yourself connected with the ethical and the best practice organizations and associations to support clients wherever you're supporting them.
Yeah.
So even if you're in a non-regulated province and you maybe don't need, you might not even need your master's really to say that you're a counselor, but let's
Hmm.
say you have done that, um, to just align yourself, right, in a way that feels ethical and best practice and have that integrity, which is what
Yeah.
Karen had talked about in previous episodes in terms of like that was one of her main motivations, right? Like, yeah,
Hmm.
she could just be a counseling gal and that's great, but part of the going to get her master's and doing these extras is to that piece of like aligning herself well
Yeah.
with,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely. I love that. One thing too we should talk about is supervision after grad
I was just
school,
gonna say that. I was
right?
like,
Yeah.
supervision.
All right,
Yes.
go for it. Take the floor.
I just want to say that. So again, if you're staying in your, okay, twofold. If you're staying in your practicum placement and hate your supervisor, find a new one.
Yeah,
Break up with your supervisor.
so
Say, you know
important.
what? I really want to practice XYZ. Lie to them, make them feel good. I don't care how you do it, right? Is that the most, self-aware and
Oh yeah. Oh
therapist-esque
no.
thing? Yes,
Preservation, that's
lie.
okay.
Um, if you want to stay in your practicum, great, but your supervisor is not your person, no problem. Break up with
Yeah.
them, find a new one. You don't have to be tied to your supervisors anymore. You get to choose. You have the autonomy, and I'm empowering you currently to find a supervisor that works for you, that
So
can
important.
support you in whatever support you need. My supervisor is amazing, Christine Cunningham, fantastic. She also supports me in other like outside of um, therapy work things, right? Informed consents, what it means to start a private practice, how to do my fucking taxes, right?
Yeah.
So find someone who's going to meet your needs, who's going to
Yeah.
support you the way that you need to be supported. And they're out there. Search for them,
Hmm.
find them,
Yeah.
right? You shouldn't feel nervous and uncomfortable every time you go to supervision.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be reserved and oh, I don't know if I want to say that because they might take it the wrong way.
Hmm.
You should be able to be fully yourself, hey, you know what? I think I fucked up on this client. What are you
Mm-hmm.
thinking? And, you know, often Christine's like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so. Or, yeah, maybe I wouldn't have done that.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no reservation for me. And I think that that speaks to the alliance that you have with your supervisor.
Yes. That is
Karen,
such
what do
an
you think?
important thing. I'm so glad you brought that up because part of supervision is to, for us as therapists, to bring all of us, all of ourselves, all of the work we do to there to say, hey, like, you know what? Maybe I didn't do this great. Maybe this part of me got caught up in this here, or I'm struggling with this, or hey, I think I did this really great, or what's your perspective on this? How would you work with this case? Again, please note for
Mhm.
those of you who are not in the therapy world, there's not like your confidentiality is protected and there's no like necessarily specifics being shared. It's all like your confidentiality is intact, just so we should say that. But there is such value to being able to say, hey, I don't know what to do here, or hey, I wish I would have done this differently, or I don't think this was the best thing. And, here's what I'm going to do about it, or what do you think? That's so important. We have to feel safe and comfortable with our
Yeah.
supervisor. Yeah, that's
And
massive.
post practicum, you get to decide how frequently you go. No one's telling you you have to go weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, whatever your practicum was previously. And also, again, CRPO, you have to
Yeah,
collect a certain amount of supervision hours,
follow
150.
those. Yeah.
You have to get those within to drop your qualifying. So then, again, in that instance, you get to decide. I think I have like 7 more supervision hours and like, I don't know, some like 90 direct client hours to go. Um, so I went hot and heavy at the beginning, right? I saw her probably bi-weekly
Mm-hmm.
for a period of time. Now I'm doing a group that she's running and then seeing her on the oddball one-on-one. I think the point is that I'm like you stay connected and you check in when you need to check in and
Mm-hmm.
talk about cases that are coming up. Um, and at that point you get to decide how frequent that supervision looks like, all while checking on your competencies and your
Yeah.
self-awareness and
Yeah.
all of these pieces that we've learned.
Yeah, definitely. And so there is like a suggested or kind of schedule that CRPO has too, like Izzy talked about. And then once you drop the qualifying, that changes again a little bit, but we're still working with supervision. And honestly, I know super or therapists who have been in this business for years and years and years and still see a supervisor or a consultant, something, every so often just to make sure that they're kind of having another ear to their cases for clinical competence, for ethics, just for their own well-being too. Because also part of supervision should be a place where you can bring yourself in the therapy room and talk about what's going on for you as well, so that it's not impacting the client. Sometimes we have clients where their stuff has mirrored an experience we've had, or something along those lines where parts of us are going, oh boy. And so we also need a space to work through that stuff and help us work in the therapy room with those things so that it's not overtaking because is about the client, you know?
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that because it's something that had popped up at either last episode that we recorded, because you guys know we record back to back, or this one, I'm not sure. But you said that even, they you've been in this field for 20 plus years and you still check in with the supervisor. There is something about this work, and I was thinking about it the other day, that like you go weeks, months with these people and they don't know you.
Mm-hmm.
Like these clients don't know you. Like you, I mean,
Not the
yeah,
depth, the
there's
depth of you.
the depth. Like
Yeah.
there is some like self-disclosure and obviously like relational stuff. But like,
Because it's about them.
yeah, and like
Yeah.
I
And
just
it's
had
their
this like
space.
this pause of like, does anybody know me? Like I had this like existential,
I love
the
that.
word.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like, does anybody know me? Like,
Ooh.
am I anything? Like I was like having this like, oh my
I love
God,
that.
right? Like, how can I go through day and day and day and just give, 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 give,
Oh,
and they don't
Izzy.
know me.
I
And
love
it's
this.
not
We could
even
do a
like
whole
I
episode
need
on
to
that.
receive. I know. It's not even like I have to receive something from them because it's not that either. I fucking love my job and I'm so honored to do it.
Yeah.
But there is this piece of like, whoa. Like I was like
Yeah.
gobsmacked by this concept that came to me just the other day. And so I think that these are the things you bring to supervision. You're able to
Mhm.
say, whoa, I had a part of me that really showed up in this session, and this is how I showed up. This is how I handled it. And your
Yeah.
supervisor's there to witness that,
Yeah.
right? And to be there to support you through that in a way that nobody else, sure, you can do peer consult. Um, but there's
It's
something
different.
about having it
Yeah.
there's different, right? Like there's something about having like, I don't know, wise, like my wise, I don't know, supervisor
I
and
love that.
just
Yeah.
having this person that like you feel like you relate to and also like they know like and Kristen would be the first to say I've got my shit together and neither do I. But this person who has like like has experience, right? And
Yeah.
has this like they're in this for the right reasons too. And
Hmm.
I think that that's what you really want to find in a supervisor.
Hmm. I love that. I think, man, you touched on so many good things there. The therapy relationship is it's an odd relationship.
Yeah.
So it's, I think very normal to have that whole kind of pulling apart, really fleshing out, really sitting with all the intricacies that make that and how it impacts clients, us, how it's good, how all of these things. So to have a space to sit with that is really important. And then you
Yes.
also talked about something really beautiful in there that I think also really translates to life and to how hopefully clients feel and why therapy is so important is that witnessing part,
Yeah.
that relationship, that space to be held, to be
Yeah.
seen, for all parts of you to show up and someone to say, yeah, I hear ya. I
That's
gotcha.
real.
And
Yeah.
that, yeah, and that makes sense. No
Mhm.
judgment, no shame, just that level of witnessing that truly does heal. It shifts things within us. And
It's
so we also
phenomenal.
need that.
Yeah.
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 Big time.
Love that.
I
Yeah.
think that's, I don't know. I feel like we talked, this was a good episode. If you
Love
guys
it.
think it's a good episode, say hell yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think we touched on a lot of really good things here. I think we talked on, the experience of posts, like what to do, what your avenues look like, and maybe you guys are coming up with new avenues. And like honestly, yeah, let us know if we missed something.
Yeah.
The logistics of Ontario, CCC, finding a supervisor, some hours stuff, our
Yeah.
own journey. Um, and again, a lot of this is based on our own experiences, how we have shown up and how we've navigated this. And it's not the only two experiences out there, um, but definitely real for what year are we in? 2025, right?
Absolutely.
Just in
Yeah.
case our grandchildren are listening to it and wondering what year we're talking about.
Whoa,
Um,
wouldn't that be trippy? Yeah. Hi, guys.
Hi. Um, but yeah, it's this like, yeah, I mean, there's so many pieces. And I hope
Yeah,
for our listener that this kind of touched on what expected by this
absolutely.
end of practicum and beyond. And we'll continue to bring in different pieces. Again, we want to hear from you. Let us know.
Yep. Like,
Email,
subscribe, all the things you're
Instagram,
supposed to do that we don't
Facebook,
know.
comment. Yeah, we don't.
Yeah.
We really don't.
And we
But let us
appreciate
know
it.
if there's anything that you're thinking that you want to hear and if this is like hitting the mark or we're missing it.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it feels like we're babbling, but that's okay.
Well, that's par for the course with us
It
too,
is.
and I think
Yeah.
is humanity. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's
100%.
coherent babbling-ish. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I
Thanks,
think it's a wrap.
guys.
Any last thoughts, Karen?
I love it. You got this. Well done. Don't forget to take a moment to sit with it, celebrate, and really feel you did it. That's
Yes.
fabulous. And explore,
Yeah.
explore, and just
Yep.
jump in. The only way you're gonna learn is to jump in.
I know that it continues
That's right.
beyond initial post practicum. You
That's
can
right.
explore for years and years and years and then find what really lights your fire, right?
Yeah,
But continue to check
absolutely.
in and navigate and explore. Yeah, 100%.
Totally. Okay.
Okie dokie. I'm
Thanks,
Izzy.
everybody. See you later. I'm Karen.
Okay, bye. Panic
Bye.
and process.